Recording button. Double tap to activate.
Hello, yarn lovers. My name is May. If you're new to my channel, I love yarn. I love to knit and crochet, and I also happen to be visually impaired, so I knit and crochet by feel. Today, we're going to talk about 3-needle bind off. When is it useful? Well, this is a sample of a tank top that I knit, and at the top I knit it from the bottom up, and then at the bust we changed from lace to a little eyelet round, put in some ribbon, and then worked all the way to the top, bound off, put some stitches on holders for the straps on one side, on the other side, did the same thing on the back. And then after I did the full bind off, I went back and I worked my straps all the way up to the midpoint of the shoulder on the front, and then went to the back, did the same thing, worked my straps from the midpoint all the way up, and then met in the middle at the top of my shoulders and did what's called a 3-needle bind off. So it's useful for that. It's also very useful anything straps on tank top, straps on dresses, scarves or shawls where you want the ends to look the same, and with certain lace patterns they might work better if you work them from each end and then work towards the middle. So that's what we're going to do today, is we are going to work some 3-needle bind off on a scarf. I really hope this works because I'm not great at 3-needle bind off, but we're going to give it a try here. So what you need to do first is you're going to have 2 halves. This is 2 halves of a scarf here, and they're identical, right? I started at the end of one, worked up in the lace pattern to the midpoint. I got this scarf a little bit longer than I intended, but that can happen when you're working that way and you're not totally sure how it's going to work out. So I have 2 halves here, right? I have a half here that's on this little bamboo needle, and then I have another half that's on this really long circ here. And these are exactly the same. I've counted and double counted and triple counted my number of pattern repeats to make sure that my 2 halves are the same. The next thing that you want to do is you want to go across on each piece, right? And you want to double check your stitch count. Now I should have 23 stitches across on each half. Now I'm not going to do that with you. I believe you can count to 23 twice without me, right? So I'm not going to do that with you, but that's essentially what you want to do, is make sure that your stitch count matches on each piece. And then what you want to do is you want to take your pieces, and in these pieces we have a right side and a wrong side, as we do for most knit pieces. So this is our stockinette side with our lace pattern, and then on the reverse we have the reverse stockinette side. So to do 3-needle bind off, it's going to leave a little bit of a ridge. So you want that on the wrong side, which means to work this, you want your wrong side out, you want your right side in, and then you take your matching piece on the other half of it and you do the exact same thing. So you line those up so that you have your wrong sides, or your right sides of your pieces that you want facing outwards, in this case our stockinette side, together. They're facing together on the inside, and you have both wrong sides facing out.
Pause.
Okay, so I have checked that I have 23 stitches on each needle. I have my stockinette side right? I have the reverse stockinette side down and stockinette side up, and same thing here. So now I've got my working yarn in the back. These are number 15 needles. These are jumbo needles. Might be a little bit awkward because these needles are so big. Excuse me. We are working with Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick. So with some big yarn, with some big needles. Okay, so we want to put these needles so that they are parallel to each other. And then we want to go in. The bamboo needle is pretty sticky. These might not be the best choice to work with here. I like to have a metal needle and a bamboo. Okay, so we're going to knit one stitch. We're going to knit the other stitch off of both needles. So we've just knit those two together. That's your first step, is you want to knit your 2 stitches together off of each needle as you hold them parallel. The bamboo needles might not be the best choice. They're a little bit sticky. But I like to have needles of different textures so I can tell them apart when I'm working. So we're going to go into the front stitch on top. We're going to go into the second stitch on the back, exactly how you knit, just exactly how you knit. You're going to wrap your yarn. You're going to knit the first. You're going to knit the second. And you're going to take those stitches off the needle. So we got 2 stitches done. Now on the third needle, yeah, awkward, right? You got 2 stitches and you're going to bind off just like you normally would. Now, if you can see, most people will use their needle as a tool when they bind off and they'll grab that stitch. As somebody who's visually impaired, I often just use my fingers and to manipulate those stitches, and that way I can just feel what I'm doing there, and I do that when I bind off. I end up binding off pretty tight. I do have some issues with that, but it just works better for me to do it that way. So, okay, into the first stitch, into the second stitch. Take the yarn from the back, wrap it, go through the first stitch, go through the second stitch. Take those stitches off the needle. Now we've got 2 stitches on the third needle again, and we're just going to grab that first stitch that's on there. We're going to pull it over the second stitch and take it off. We're back to 1 stitch on the third needle. Into the first stitch, into the second stitch. On the needle behind it. Wrap your yarn, knit those stitches just like normal. Take them off the needles, back to 2 stitches on the third needle, and pull that second stitch right off over the top, just like a regular bind off. Into the next stitch on the front needle, into the next stitch on the back needle. Wrap the yarn. Knit the back stitch, knit the front stitch. Take those stitches off the needles. 2 stitches on the third needle. Grab the stitch or use your needle, whatever you like to do, pull it off. And you'll begin to see that you're getting a little seam here, which is why we want to do that on the wrong side of our pieces. And then hopefully you can see it. I don't know. I'm visually impaired. I don't know what colors people can see. I think this is red. I don't know if it actually shows up on the screen or not, because I work by feel. So I don't know what shows up. I don't know what people can see. To me, in my mind, I think of red as a color that's bright, and vibrant. And so in my mind, I think, well, people can see red, right? Red is used to show up for things like stop signs and things like that. So I assume people can see red really well because it's bright, but I don't actually know. So I'll do this with you a few more times. I'm not going to do all 23 stitches with you. You don't need that. I think you get the point. Into the front needle stitch, into the stitch on the back needle, you wrap your stitch, pull it through, go through each needle, make sure you get those stitches off the needles just like normal. 2 stitches on your third needle. And then however you want to work it. If you like to take it off with your needle, by all means. If you can't see and it's easier to manipulate it with your fingers, you can do it that way. I'll do it a few more times with you. Into the needle on the front needle, into the stitch on the front needle, into the stitch on the back needle, wrap your yarn, pull it through, go through each stitch, take those stitches off the needle. And we should have 2 stitches on our third needle. Take that stitch off the third needle, and we're building. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking the 2 stitches from each half and we're knitting those together. Basically what we're doing is we're knitting those together and we're making them into one stitch. So it's basically like a knit 2 together is what we're doing pretty much. In a different way, parallel, but that's essentially what we're doing is we're creating one stitch out of 2, doing a parallel knit 2 together, and then doing your regular standard bind off. So into the needle on the front needle, into the stitch on the back needle, wrap it, take those stitches off the needles and off the third needle. Okay, I think hopefully that demonstrates it well enough for people. Hopefully you are getting the concept. Into the stitch on the front needle, into the stitch on the back needle, wrap the yarn, pull it through each stitch, knit as if normal. Those 2 stitches that are parallel become one. And then you got to take them off the third needle, bind off. So we're kind of doing like 2 different things at once. This definitely involves coordination, and it's a little bit hard to do with these 15s as well. They're kind of chunky and harder to manipulate because they're so big. It's definitely harder to do with the bigger needles, but it's also, for me anyway, really hard to do with the fine needles too. And then pull it off the end of the third needle. Take it off the first needle, or into the first needle, stitch on the first needle and the second, wrap your yarn, take those stitches off their needles. This is how I knit by feel. If you're wondering, I'm sure I don't knit like most people. I knit by feel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera and finish working this 3 needle bind off, and I'll let you see what it looks like.
Pause.
Okay, here it is, the finished product. You can see on the wrong side, it leaves a bit of a ridge. I can feel that really easily on the wrong side. There's a big ridge, and that's why, especially this is a number 6 super bulky yarn, so 5 and a 6, of course your seams are going to be bigger, So when you're doing a 3-needle bind off, your seam is definitely going to be bigger. That's why you do it with your wrong sides out, so that your seam ends up on the wrong side. So when we flip it over, that's what it looks like. That's the scarf. So you can see it a little bit. I could block this. If I blocked it, so this is a lace scarf, and if I were to stretch it and block it, it would certainly pull out that seam some more, so that it didn't quite have that if you work with lace at all and you block it, you know, that lace can kind of bunch up, right? And that's the whole point of blocking. Am I probably going to block this? Probably not. But if I wanted to, absolutely, that would pull. If I stretch this, if I wash this and I stretched it and I pinned it out, it would pull the little bit of that bunchiness out of that seam. But that is going to go essentially, because it's a really, really, really long scarf. I like big scarves, but I did get a little bit longer than I needed, because I was making 1/2. And then after I realized I was probably at the midpoint, I was a little further than I needed to be. So that can happen. That's something to be mindful of if you're working a scarf in 2 halves, from one end to the midpoint and then putting it on holders and working the other half. You might want to check your length a little bit more often, so you might not get yours quite as long as mine, unless you want a really long scarf. But I have long hair, and so for me, this seam is going to be in the back of my neck. You're probably not even going to see it with my hair, so I'm not really going to worry about the fact that I got a little bit of a seam there. And see, if you stretch it and pull it, if I blocked this out, if I wet blocked it, you wouldn't really even see that seam from the right side. So that's why you do it that way. That's why you put your right sides together so they are facing each other. That's why you put your wrong sides out, so the big chunky seam goes on the wrong side. So that's going to be next to the back of my neck. So if I was making this for somebody with short hair, or who knows, if somebody with short hair were to wear it, that would be what would be at the back of their neck. So you'd have a little bit of a visual, just like anything else, like a sleeve or something. There would be a little bit of a seam there, but not too much. So that's 3-needle bind off. It's great for sleeves on tank tops, like I showed you in the beginning. Just like this white one, where you can see it right there. That's what it looks like on the inside. Same thing. I did wrong sides out. Is you get a little bit of a ridge, and then at the top of my shoulders you're going to get just a little bit of a seam, just like even on a manufactured t-shirt or something, you might have a little bit of a seam. It's not too noticeable, it's not too big of a deal. So I love to use this on tank top straps, on straps for dresses and scarves and shawls and wraps and all kinds of things. So anyways, thanks for listening. Until next time, happy stitching.